Hi guys, my name's Erica and I'm an alcoholic, and I decided that I'm going to share my story. I did the other night on TikTok when I received my 11-year chip of recovery, but it kept glitching out, and so I couldn't get a clean version, so I decided that I would just make a clean version. So let's see. I'm going to share a little bit about what it was like before. I would say that probably I'll give you a little history, basically, of how I grew up. Mother was out of the picture at 2 years old. My father had gotten custody. My father was a pretty violent alcoholic. When he was dry, he would be very violent, very physical with us, and also very verbally abusive. I was told that I was dumb, not smart, would never amount to anything, from 2 years old up until, the age of 14. He was so abusive that I remember sneaking his alcohol, sneaking a few of his beers when I was 6 years old, and the first time having a feeling of safety, a feeling of just not caring, a feeling of everything was going to be okay, just because I felt very numb with alcohol. I remember every single day of my life when I would be on the bus coming home, that I wouldn't want to go home. I was terrified to go home. I always knew that what was waiting for me was absolutely horrifying. And so living like that, probably at the age of 14, that's when I was finally removed from the home, and I was put in a group home, and of course having lots of emotions over that, and just feeling a sense of not belonging, and being just completely terrified. I ended up becoming where I didn't talk. I didn't talk for probably 6 to 9 months, and I was just completely mute. I remember my friend that is still my friend till this day, she would come and check in on me and just tell me what was going on and everything throughout the group home and that type of stuff. But it was just really a crazy time in my life. After that, when I was at the group home, I was starting to experiment with medications, pills, but it was kind of, I would say, I don't know the right word to describe it. The best way that I could say it was a culturally acceptable. I remember growing up, and that was just something that our family did. If you had a headache, aunt had medication. If you had anxiety, somebody could give you a pill for that. We never really went to doctors to get prescribed that stuff. And so in the group home, though, I was prescribed any kind of medication that I wanted. Actually, that's where I started learning to manipulate the medical profession into getting things to make me get numb and not feel. And with the way that I was feeling already, I didn't want to be in my own skin. So after that, that was a really difficult time in my life. I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard. I do remember my Aunt Nicole, God bless her, she's no longer with us. She did come to visit me once when I was at the group home towards the end, because she found out where I was at and everything, and that really meant a lot. So after that, my mother, she had gotten word that I was in a group home. My biological mother, she was living out in Arizona. She invited me to come and stay with her. So I did. And after that, I got to know her. My mother is somebody with severe bipolar, manic depressive. She doesn't always take her medication. She is a beautiful woman, a very loving woman when she does take her treatment seriously, but when she doesn't, it's complete chaos and very destructive. I never really understood how destructive that was until later on. My biological mother was also really loved to frequent the bars a lot, and she would take me. She was able to sign me in at 18, and at that point I was able to get my hands on any kind of alcohol that I wanted to. And so I would drink and I would feel great. I would feel on top of the world. I had no worries. I had no problems. I didn't have to look at my past. I didn't have to try to understand, what was going on. It was just kind of like party time for me. And I remember a couple times going to the doctor and the doctor just asking me, just because of labs, like he would ask if I was a drinker. And I would be like, no, I'd go out like probably once a month, but that's it. Even though I knew that wasn't true, I was going out every weekend. But then I started having other problems, like I couldn't focus and I couldn't do all of that. And of course, I knew exactly what medications to ask to be prescribed. And I had a lovely doctor that he would prescribe me anything, but I could also manipulate. And I was really good at manipulating, and I really could get whatever kind of medication I wanted. And so I would take Ritalin, I would take Adderall, I would take whatever. And I was getting to the point that I was using them very irresponsibly. Like if I wanted to lose weight, I could take some Ritalin if I wanted to focus and concentrate, but really I was using them when I didn't need to. And then I was also taking benzodiazepines then, but not as much. Those really became a problem later on. Those also were a problem when I was at the group home, the benzodiazepines. I did have a couple really traumatic things happen to me by staff that worked there. And so I really learned to cope then with medication, and so anyway, going back to the being out in Arizona, going to bars, drinking, taking medications, all of that, I ended up getting pregnant with my first daughter. And when I did that, every single time that I was pregnant, I didn't drink, I didn't use pills, but I would always think about it. I would always think, man, I can't wait to have this baby so then I can have another drink. And then I would definitely obsess towards the last month of pregnancy, but it was also not where I was drinking every single day after I had them. And then I would say probably at the age of 30, 30, that's when it became I became a mess. That's where, every single job I had, I would schedule my work hours around my drinking. I wasn't drinking still every single night, but I was definitely on the way to that. I was a blackout drunk. I drank. This is something that I heard at a meeting, and I've heard it several different times, and this is so me. My problem was that when I got started, I couldn't stop. That was my problem. And when I couldn't stop, everything would get bad for me. I would make bad decisions. I would be hurtful. I'd be self-destructive. I always thought that I was a super happy drunk, but I was a happy drunk that just made really, really poor choices. And talk about too, like so anyway, I get there, I'm like, 30, drinking very heavily, probably about 32. Actually, 32 is when I really was drinking every single night. I was drinking to the point that I talked about, like, I Googled if I was an alcoholic, And then when I found out that I was an alcoholic, then I was like, well, I think I have control over this, and so I decided, well, I'm going to switch to wine. I hate wine. I'm not going to drink shots anymore because shots always get me in trouble. Beer, I just like too much. And so I'm going to drink wine because I don't like it. And I think that this is also this is the difference too with like a real alcoholic is we're not drinking because we like the taste of it. We're drinking for that effect. We're drinking for the buzz. Like we're drinking for that feeling of just getting away, whatever it is, or feeling bigger or feeling, happier or more attractive. And so I was always trying to look for that. And so I think that with all of that, I ended up starting to have like medical problems where I started feeling really tired all the time and fatigued. And then, the scariest thing that happened, and this was where I started going downhill. Like this is where it just like progressed so quickly, so rapidly, and was getting scary, was at like 32, 33. That's where I ended up. One morning I just remember collapsing on the ground. Like I couldn't breathe. Like I could, but my breath was like so shallow. And I went to the doctor, I went to the hospital, and they automatically thought that I was pill seeking because I was already on like a low dose of Xanax. And then the next thing you know, like they gave me more, but I didn't know that they thought that I was pill seeking. I thought that they were treating me because they were like, you're having an anxiety attack, but they didn't check my lungs or anything like that. And so I end up getting, they shoot me up with a benzodiazepine, like a Ativan, and then I can breathe a little bit and I relax and then I go home, but I'm still like struggling with breathing. Oh, it's still traumatizing just talking about it. And then I remember going to the hospital again because I still couldn't breathe. And so of course, instead of them doing x-rays or anything like that, they shoot me up with more Ativan and they're like, you're good to go. So I go. And then I finally was like, I'm not getting any better. And so I end up going to the hospital in Tucson, Arizona, like the bigger city near me, and they do chest x-rays and they're like, your whole left lung is filled with pneumonia, and so they treat me with that. And so then I remember after that, that's the scariest thing that ever like really, really happened to me. I get treated with that pneumonia and then I'm released, and this is like a day after, and I get released, and I remember my best friend was there like holding my hand the whole time. And then after that I had a friend drive me home, and my best friend was like, I really want to drive you home. But I knew at that point, I was like, I knew what I needed. I wanted alcohol, I wanted cigarettes, and I knew that she was gonna be like, hey, crazy lady, like you can't have any of that. So I told her, I said, it's okay. I have a ride. Worry about me, but thank you. I appreciate you being here for me. And then I end up going to my other friend takes me, and I get my cigarettes and I get my freaking alcohol, like a 40 ounce. Cause I'm like, I don't even care at that point. So I'm drinking my 40 ounce literally while my friend is pumping the gas, and I'm sitting on a curb smoking a cigarette because I can't smoke right next to the gas thing. And I remember my best friend like pulling up, and she is like, what are you doing? Like, and she looked like that horror in her face, like made me feel like a piece of crap, and after that, she told me, she said, I went home and I cried myself to sleep because I thought to myself, my friend Erica probably isn't going to make it. And I actually at that point didn't think I was going to make it either. And I didn't care at that point if I made it. I actually just wanted to go. I wanted to go. I didn't think that I could do anything right, then I didn't think that I deserved to live anymore. I was so bad. I had 3 beautiful kids, and I was just such a horrible mom, and I couldn't get out of bed. All I could do was get out of bed to drink. And my kids deserve so much more than that. So after that, I end up, still having a run with it. Like, at that point, all those injections of benzodiazepines got me really hooked, got me so hooked. It felt so freaking like, just like, I couldn't get off of it. I couldn't breathe if I didn't have it anymore. I remember whenever it would leave my body just a little bit, I needed more. I physically needed more. If I stopped taking my medicine, my benzos, I would have these seizures. I would have some physical pain from it. And I got to the point that I was up to 9 milligrams of Xanax a day. I don't even know how I'm alive because I was drinking alcohol throughout all of that. And then after that, then I was like, I finally figured it out probably a couple months later. And I said to my bio mom and to my friends, I said, I think I'm physically addicted to this benzodiazepine, these Xanax, and I don't think that I can get off of them. I remember asking my doctor, I said, hey, can you give me some anti-seizure medicine, and then I'll take Benadryl. I had it in my mind how I would get off, but I couldn't do it even with that. And even when I went to the detox, they said that was really smart of you, but you were missing one step. But they thought, that I was definitely on the path of I wanted something different. So I go to the medical detox, and it's in California, and they are medically detoxing me. It's the most brutal thing. If you are ever getting off of benzodiazepines and alcohol, they say it's the hardest to kick. For benzodiazepines, they say it's even harder than heroin, because you can die from your withdrawals. So if you're listening to this and you think that benzodiazepines might be a problem for you, go to a doctor and definitely get help with it, but also don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Yeah. So I get to the rehab, and I, am going to counseling and doing all the stuff that I have to do with a counselor. And I'm getting medically detoxed off of these medications. And it was crazy. The first day that I entered that rehab, I had a crazy seizure, and that's when they said, okay, we have to find a different type of treatment. And so they figured out a way to treat me so that I could get off of them. They get me off of them, and it was so painful. And I remember after having one seizure, I got down on my hands and knees, and I begged. And I did not have a relationship with God. I went to Catholic school growing up where I wasn't Catholic, so I was taught to fear God, that there was no room for me, for God. That he already had all of the people that he cared about, and I definitely wasn't one of them. And then of course the way that I lived, I didn't feel good enough for God. And I remember getting on my hands and knees that night, and I begged God. I said, please, if you don't want me, if I'm not worth it, just let me go. Just let me go. But if I am, if you see something in me, God, I promise you that I will do whatever it takes, but I need to know how. And that next day, I just had this sense of calmness just come over me, and I got taken to my first 12-step meeting. And when I was at my 12-step meeting, somebody told my story word for word, and I had that aha, I'm an alcoholic. And I remember like feeling, even though like if you're somebody that's in recovery, you remember like those first 60 days where you're physically like shaking and your body is in all of this pain. Like I was doing that, and I remember though being like okay with it for the first time, like being okay with the discomfort, almost enjoying the discomfort, because I knew that the way that I drank, the way that I worked my alcoholism, that was the way that I was going to work my recovery too, with everything that I have. And I also remember telling God, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, like, for revealing this to me. And after that, I called my best friend and I was like, I'm an alcoholic. And she was like, do you think that you are? And I was like, and she's such a good friend. She knew I was. And I said, I am. I really am, and I'm okay with it. And she like got everything prepared for me. And when I came back home, she had supported me so much. She ended up having her daughters like share a room, so then I had my own room. My goddaughter shared her room and just let me have it, and she made sure that my 3 kids were comfortable, almost like, you know, just letting me in her home. Like she was just, you know, like on board with this, ready to watch me succeed. Her and my husband were the people then, and my amazing sponsor, but I hadn't met her yet, that really at that point, just, you know, like I knew it was okay. Like they were protecting all of that outside world until I could get on my feet again. And there was a lot from that outside world, that a lot of demons, and they just fought them off for me so then I could have that peace and that support. And every single day they would tell me how proud they were of me. And eventually I went to, well, not eventually, right away, she was like, so you know what meetings you're gonna go to? And I was like, yeah. Like I knew then. I said, like, I have to go to a meeting, like I have to. And I was going to meetings and getting networked and everything. And I remember I found my favorite meeting, and they asked me right away, like the chairperson was like, I'm not going to be chairing, we need somebody to chair. And I knew from the meetings that I went to in California that service work was definitely going to be a requirement for me to stay sober. And so I got a commitment and I started chairing a meeting. And then I went to another meeting and I was talking to this sponsor in California, and she was like, yeah, like, Erica, it's been too long, like you need to get a sponsor. And I went to this meeting that I never went to, and the next thing you know, like my sponsor walked in and it was like the lights just beamed on her, and she told her story, and she also talked about God a lot. And I knew this lady like was so spiritual that I wanted to know that God. I wanted to know that higher power that she loved so much. It was so apparent that she loved this higher power so much, and that this higher power could do amazing things for people, you know, and stuff. And she taught me how to want this higher power to be proud of the person that we are today, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I also wanted recovery like hers. And so I really, yeah, like that lady just, she helps me. She still helps me, you know, once a week we meet, and she walked me through the big book. She walked me through the steps, but she also showed me, she bridged me to a relationship with a higher power of my own understanding, somebody that I felt like loved me and cared about me, like a proud parent, you know. And I like my sponsor a lot because this lady will never, ever, ever take any credit. Like, she's just all about, I let God channel through me, and that's how I help people. And it's not me, it's God. And she's taught me a lot about channeling, and I think that that's, you know, what I try to bring to other people also. So after that, this is like the first year of recovery, and I know, like, I got into a car wreck. I remember when I got into the car wreck, I never thought about drinking. I was like, oh my God, like, my vehicle is the only thing that I own right now, and that's even smashed up. But I had a job, and that was good. And luckily my friends, they all like chipped in and gave me rides to work and stuff, and they helped me with my kids and everything. And the car wreck wasn't my fault, so insurance helped like get it fixed. But I remember even with the car wreck, I was like so proud that I wasn't drunk. I was so proud that I was proud that I had insurance. Like, there were just all these things. I remember that first year just being happy that I had money in the bank. I wasn't wasting it on alcohol. If my kids wanted to do something, we could do it, or I could save up, you know, all those little things that just really amounted to a lot, you know. And then after that, then I end up getting, you know, a even better job, and then I go back to school. I become a meditation coach, and I get, you know, an associate's degree, which gives me the ability to do counseling, like PhD level counseling. And so I go and I work with people in recovery, and I love that job so much. And I did that for the past 8 years. All along. But anyway, getting back to that first year, me and my husband had been separated, and my husband, of course, was back then a heavy drinker just like me, you know, but he had already quit a little bit before me. And so that made it definitely a lot easier, because we talked about, it was like a year after I got clean and sober, we were talking, and, you know, I remember him talking about wanting to make it work with me again. And I just said, you know, I really don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like, because I know that I have to stay clean and sober, because that's my life depends on it, and who I am now like depends on it. And I won't have all of this if, you know, I'm with somebody that drinks. And he told me, he said I don't ever have to drink again, and so he hasn't ever drank since then. And I'm very fortunate, because I know not everybody has that miracle. As it goes for my mom is a big enabler. My mom also is somebody that has untreated bipolar disorder, and so she did a lot of destructive things, you know, and stuff. And so for me, for this person in recovery, it was best for me to put distance between me and her. She made it very difficult for me for the first year of my recovery. She's part of the demons that my best friend and my husband had to kind of like, you know, put her at arm's length to help me get through. And a counselor of mine told me it's imperative for you to put distance between you and your mom. Like, your recovery depends on it. And so so I had to do that. And even though it hurt, you know, and I'm not gonna say like my biological mom hasn't ever put anything good in my life. She definitely has. You know, there's a lot of good traits. I've said it before. Very beautiful lady, one of the most beautiful people that I know. But also, you know, I think of mental illness a lot like recovery, and a lot like, you know, diabetes or any other sickness. Is, you know, if you know that there's treatment out there that works for you, then you have to be accountable. Self-destruction isn't okay, but also doing things to other people that you love and care about, there's no excuse for, you know. With my biological father, he passed away earlier this year. I had, you know, didn't really have a relationship with him basically since the age of 14. I had seen him a couple times, you know. in my adult life, but he was, he died an alcoholic too. So that was difficult, but also a lot of these things that happened, I didn't have to drink over. Things that, probably if I wasn't ready to get clean and sober, I probably would have found really big excuses to drink over, but I didn't. And I didn't feel comfortable with the pain, but luckily 11 years of recovery, you build healthy coping skills like meditating and Reiki and going to meetings and being around good people that love you and support you. Also, another big thing of my recovery is being of service. The moment that I'm going through something, if I have the energy, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go help somebody, because that's going to make me feel better. And that is a big part of my recovery. So, I think that I've covered everything, things that I've gained in recovery. Oh my God. The list is too long to do on this. But I'll just share a couple. I've gained such a beautiful, amazing relationship with my higher power, but my children, man, I definitely gained a beautiful relationship with all three of them. And if that's all that I got out of this lifetime, was that would be more than enough. But that's not all that I got. I got a really good relationship with my husband. My friends invite me places and they want me around. I get to be a part of helping others. People want to come to me to have help, or to even walk a journey with me. I get to see this beautiful life happen. I'm not afraid of people anymore. I love people. That's something that I couldn't say back then. There's definitely financial things that, I didn't have, didn't ever think that I would ever have, and I do now. It's just so many things. I get to be grandma. I got to be part of my daughter's wedding, and I got to go to all of my children's graduations. These are things that, I probably, I most likely would have been dead if I never quit drinking, but say it did carry on, I would have been a complete wreck. Nobody would have wanted me to go anywhere. I thought I was a happy drunk, but I also was a freaking embarrassing drunk. And so these are things that, I say it all the time. I've been so overpaid in this lifetime. And so that's what I've got, guys. That's my story. And please feel free to comment. And also, I'm really big about just, if you're somebody struggling, please, you could send me a message and just say, hey, where do I start? And I would, Namaste, guys. Take care.